Back in a much more simpler age, looking at an image like this, it would be incredibly easy to assume the obvious. But in the modern world, some might say that the gentlemen in the car were probably wondering if she was staring at the eclipse without glasses and lost track of what they were doing, just in an attempt to make sure that she didn't damage her eyes. The way to control a democratic society isn't through fear. It's through distraction. Now, this is, of course, a fictional character created in the series Colony named Everett Kynes, who was tasked with putting together some type of an algorithm, some type of a matrix that could be employed to keep people from seeing what was right in front of them. Worst end of the world ever. Now, I'm sure they're going to, for, probably a couple days more at least, maybe 3 or 4, be videos and people saying, well, it means this, it means that. There's some saying that this is some sign that in 40 days there's going to be the rapture and all this. But truly, battlefield of the mind. No one's going to care about this in a month, 2 months, 3 months. They're going to have moved on to the next thing that the government and the powers that be have put in front of them. Meanwhile, another major event has occurred on the world stage that nobody is talking about. No videos about it, nobody asking questions, and it nearly caused another major disaster on the East Coast. You haven't heard about it? Well, we're going to talk about it here for a short time on YouTube, but over at the Patreon channel, we can take topics like that and we can take the gloves off and get into the meat of them. It's only $1 over there. Not per video, not per week, per month. And if you sign up for an entire year, it comes out to less than 3 pennies a day. And the best part is, for the first quarter of a year, it's fully refundable. That's right, first $3. Go over there, 90 days, hundreds of videos never been seen on YouTube. Kick the tires, check them out. If they're not for you, say, yeah, Florida Maquis, some of this stuff's a little bit too racy. Some of this stuff is a little bit too, non-PG for me. I think I need my $3 back. Absolutely not a problem. Come right back at you. Now, what is the big story? What is the huge thing I'm talking about? It happened again. It happened again, and nobody is talking about it, of course, because there's no great video footage to show. But it happened again. This is the Fitzgerald. For those of you that remember the investigation going all the way back to 2017 and 18, this is the Fitzgerald and the McCain all over again, except this time they're just not using the Navy vessels. They're using the cargo vessels themselves. What am I talking about? Here you go. A cargo ship got dangerously close to hitting a New York City bridge. A ship loaded with more than 1,000 containers ground to a halt near the Verrazano Narrows Bridge in New York. Less than 2 weeks after a massive cargo ship caused carnage when it hit a bridge in Baltimore, a second enormous vessel has come dangerously close to a bridge in New York after it lost, quote-unquote, some of its controls in the city harbor. The 1,100 container capacity APL, I'm going to try to say this right, APL Qingdao lost some of its controls late Friday night, and it had to be rescued from the New York harbor by the U.S. Coast Guard, reports CBS News. The ship, which weighs almost 90,000 tons, reported that it had run into issues around 8:30 p.m. on Friday. Tugboats were then called out to assist the struggling vessel, which ran into problems dangerously close to the Verrazano Narrows Bridge that connects the New York boroughs of Brooklyn and Staten Island. Once the ship had been secured, workers could climb on board and make repairs. Quote, Coast Guard Vessel Traffic Service New York received a report from the motor vehicle MV APL Qingdao around 8:30 p.m. Friday that the vessel had experienced a loss of propulsion. A loss of propulsion in the Kilvancola waterway. The vessel regained propulsion and was assisted to safely anchor in Stapleton Anchorage outside of the navigable channel just north of the Verrazano Bridge by 3 towing vessels, the New York Post first reported, and the Coast Guard said. Once it had been towed to safety, the ship underwent repairs and checks to ensure it could carry out its voyage. Following the check, CBS added that it safely departed New York Harbor on Sunday morning. The ship, which is operated by the French logistics company CMA-CGM, is now sailing down the East Coast to the port of Norfolk in Virginia, according to online tracker Vessel Finder. 12 days, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so here's the ship. Pretty standard cargo ship, massive cargo ship. But once again, an incredibly strategic target. Let me zoom out here real quick. The Verrazano Narrows Bridge, where the thing happened with the other ship that knocked out the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Right here, this is Baltimore, Washington, D.C., that area. This is up in New York. Where this happened, though, guys, this is Long Island. This is Staten Island. This is Manhattan. This is the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. It's I-278. You take out this, and with the bridge being down in Baltimore, now we have a catastrophe. Now we have what is now a major financial inconvenience becoming a major catastrophe for shipping. You shut that one down. Clearly, something is going on, but nobody is talking about it. Same thing, exact same thing that went down with the Fitzgerald and the McCain. And I'm going to ask this question again. You're telling me that a ship with enough force and enough power. Let's watch this again on loop. This is the bridge that got taken out in Baltimore. You're telling me a ship like this has enough power, and I don't doubt it for 1 minute, that when it slams into a bridge piling, that it can take down a bridge, but it only dents U.S. destroyers? Now, I know the U.S. Navy makes some pretty tough ships, don't get me wrong. But a giant cargo ship slammed into the USS John McCain. A giant cargo ship slammed into the side of the Fitzgerald, USS Fitzgerald. And they walked away with basically surface damage in the sense that they were able to sail. The McCain was able to sail generally under its own power into port. I believe the Fitzgerald did need some help. But she wasn't towed. She was under her own power, but they had a tug on one side because she was listing pretty badly. But a bridge versus a Navy ship? Come on. Seriously? It's just one of those things that when you look at it, I mean, we've got two events now. Two events, only a couple of weeks apart. The Fitzgerald and the McCain were only a couple months apart. And nobody is asking the question, why all of a sudden now are we seeing this problem? Tell me one other time we have seen, or where it's been reported. I mean, show me the long laundry list of news articles going back 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. Would love to see them. Where ships, right after they leave port, right as they approach major bridges in the United States, just out of nowhere, lose power. I don't remember it. Been doing YouTube channel videos every day since, well, basically 2017. So going on, what's going to be this year's, technically 16. So this year will be 8 years. It was late 16, so in October this year, be 8 years this year. I don't remember it. Just like the issue with the Fitzgerald and McCain. People say, well, poor training, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I get that. Sometimes there's poor training. I don't remember Navy vessels getting run into by other ships. All coming out of the same region. All coming out of China. All coming out of Singapore. Asymmetric warfare being what it is. This would be a fantastic way of doing it. And if I'm not mistaken, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, was it World War I or was it World War I? I believe that they were taking out U.S. shipping first. Was it the Lusitania that got hit? And there were all sorts of, it might have been World War II. I'm trying to remember. It might have been World War II. that before we got involved in either one of those wars, the first thing they went after was U.S. shipping. They went after ships leaving the East Coast heading east. Correct me if I'm wrong in that case, but weren't there U-boats? Were there not U-boats taking out U.S. cargo ships? Now, given at that time the Eisenhower interstate system didn't exist, let's bring that up. A lot of people can't wrap their minds around this. I don't have that layer brought up right now. Well, here it is. What we know to be the interstate system in North America was brought about in the 50s after World War II, and it was the Eisenhower interstate defense highway system. All of these major highways, all these blue dots, these are all since World War II. That Eisenhower, having been a general, said, look, we need a major system in this country of interconnectivity on highways besides the rail system. And all these major highways, they all have one major system. If you guys out there who have been truckers know what I'm talking about. The odd numbers go north-south. The east numbers go east-west. If it's three numbers, like for example right here, this is, let's see if we can get it pop up here. This is I-195. If the first number is odd, it's a spur into a city. Like this is 95, and this is I-95. Or pardon me, this is I-95 here. This is 195 that spurs off into New Jersey. If it's got an even number in front of it, like 295 or 495 or 695, it's a loop around a city. So just, kind of boring knowledge. But anyway, this was all put together by the military. This was all done by the military. None of this existed before World War II. This was all done by Eisenhower. And if you said Florida Maquis, look at the East Coast. If you wanted to take out shipping, if you wanted to do major league damage to shipping, and you had to take out bridges, where would you go? One of the first places I would go would actually be down here in Florida, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But this bridge, the Francis Scott Key Bridge, right here coming out of Baltimore, it would make my top 5. And this Verrazano Narrows out of New York up here would definitely probably be top 3 for shipping. If you could close down this channel going in and out of New York. But one of the big ones, and that ship is actually headed down here for Norfolk now. But one of the really big ones would be down here. Now, this isn't a major bridge that's anywhere near the ocean, but there's a huge bridge going around Jacksonville, Florida. If you're out on what they call the East Beltway, and you're going to, this is Naval Station Mayport up here. This is a major strategic naval port right here, St. John's River coming in. Jacksonville is a bridge tour de force. This is what they call the Dames Point Bridge right here. And it's huge. It's a massive bridge. It's not as long as the Sunshine Skyway, but it's as tall. You have the Main Street Bridge. You have the Matthews. You have this one here. It's called the Buckman. And it's a freaking racetrack, by the way. It's one of the most dangerous bridges in Florida. It's all the 295. So there's all sorts of options in and around Jacksonville. It's kind of the way they laid it out makes it kind of strategic. But there was a ship that bumped into I believe it was the Matthews Bridge here in Jacksonville. And it cracked it. They had to shut it down, and they had to shut down traffic. And it caused a major pain in the butt for traffic. That was back in 13 or 14. I'm trying to remember. I think it was 13 that happened. But that was a major deal. So this is definitely military strategy 101. I'm just going to say it. And that everybody was so distracted. Everybody looking up. This is battlefield of the mind stuff. Don't get distracted. So I will leave it there. God bless all of you that have joined us already over the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. I very much appreciate it. You guys are standing in the breach, making the difference. God bless every one of you. Would love to have you if you're not there. Like I said, $1 videos, hundreds of them. There's a $5 level a month group over there. Those are another level of intense videos, just as a warning. But to all of you, God bless you. You guys, seriously, the world has changed so much. It is frightening how fast it's happening. So, like I said, would love to have you over there so we can have the gloves off conversation. God bless. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.